Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture, once again joined by Zoe.
Still Zoe.
And it's a Thursday, so you know what that means. We're here to talk about all the week's comics releases, and it's basically a big, marvelous Marvel bonanza of sorts. I couldn't think of a thing to go with an assortment of things that began.
Marvel time.
A menagerie.
Ooh.
Menagerie of marvelous Marvel. We got a lot of comics that came out this week. We had Absolute Carnage release both its second issue and a bunch of its tie-ins, and we also had Marvel Comics 1000, and of course the latest installment of House of X, and then lastly a comic that we'll get to at the end. It's getting into the top 3 of my favorite comics of the year. Spiderman Life Story had its final issue this week, and oh god, I cried so much. Oh god.
It's okay to cry over Spider people.
Yeah. So we thought we'd basically go through the biggest stories from these comics. There were a lot of big details that actually came from it. And where better to start off than Absolute Carnage, because you've actually read the second issue. I haven't had the chance to yet. I did read the Miles Morales tie-in yesterday, though, and that had the juiciest detail of all, didn't it?
To be fair, the irony of it is that the crossover and the main series sort of had one big plot point, and that plot point is that Miles Morales has just been hit with the Carnage infection, entering the worst time, but also the best time for us, because he finally gets a proper symbiote.
I'm kind of... I saw that moment happen. When they announced Absolute Carnage and they had the Miles Morales tie-in issue, and I saw that the Carnage Horde symbiote thing was engulfing him, I was like, finally, give us the ultimate amount of fan service possible. Give Miles Morales a symbiote. And while they haven't done it in the way that I thought they would, where he'd actually have, full control of his own symbiote and there'd be like a twist in the actual Miles Morales costume, they have given him one, and that is the potential for him to actually get a proper symbiote and maybe have his own... Not black costume saga, because he already has a black costume, but maybe he has a different... Maybe it's all red this time, I don't know.
Costume saga.
Yeah.
It should be really interesting, because there are sort of 2 ways they could go with it. Either he does just totally get dunked on by Carnage and he becomes sort of one of his many minions, because we've had like all of the symbiotes so far. We've got Scream, Raya, Agony, all the edgy names.
Phage.
I love them.
Lasher.
I love every last one.
Oh, the 90s.
So either we'll see Miles be one of the many Carnage monsters, which should be really interesting as Spider-Man's like, can I punch my friend? Can I kill my friend? Or, because we do know that Miles has Venom powers that do mean he can sort of mess with symbiotes. He may be able to sort of shenanigan that into being able to control himself, which would make for such an interesting dynamic, especially because he looks like a nightmare with this new symbiote.
Yeah, he has teeth coming out of everywhere.
Too spidery.
What was that Batman villain from like the Snyder days that had the teeth coming out of everything? I've completely forgotten.
Oh my god.
He looks like one of those. Dan, I trust your
Dr. Death,
comic. Dr. Death, yes.
I think?
Or Dr. Daedalus,
Dr. Teethman, bad time.
Dr. Teethman, he looks like that. But yeah, the actual issue itself, we see Miles basically trying to stop Scorpion in New York, and then that's near the Ravencroft Institute, whereas issue 1, that kind of ended with all the Carnage hordes basically surrounding Brock and Peter. And yeah, it's not looking good for Miles at that moment in time, and we have another issue of this tie-in comic to come out as well. So it depends. I don't know whether we're actually going to see Miles' fate addressed in the main Absolute Carnage series, or whether he'll get control of the symbiote in the second issue. What do you think?
I have a distinct theory that the next issue, if not potentially the next 2 issues, sort of focus around the various spider people and their fates, because the sort of majesty of Absolute Carnage is... Although if you read just the main series, you'll get everything you need. If there's any particular character that you're like, I wonder how Miles Morales is doing, bad. It's really bad. You can sort of go into the spin-off stuff, because we've also seen that Venom has been focusing on Eddie Brock's kid and Normie Osborn, which is still a terrible name.
Because you see the Maker's face in that, and oh my god, the Maker, if you don't know, is Ultimate Reed Richards. He's a bit of a wrong'un. He comes over to the main Marvel universe after getting his way through the multiverse. There's whole sorts of horrid stuff that happens during Secret Wars. He's a real bad man, but he's also got like a xenomorph-style helmet on, and he basically never takes it off. And then we see in this... He basically takes it off, and he's got like 3 little strands of hair down here and just a big old bald cranium behind him. But
it's such a misshapen head.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he's like, sorry about that. More to the viewers than to the actual people in the comics.
So what are the biggest details from Absolute Carnage number 2?
Essentially, the Miles Morales thing. It appears that Norman Osborn is dead, which is like totally covered over in the comics.
That's fine.
But would be a huge thing, especially because we literally have his grandchild, like still in the comic unaware of like the terrible things that have happened. He's dead but reincarnated. It's sort of, there's a lot of shenanigans in this one. We're essentially seeing pretty much every character or symbiote that we thought were dead back. We see Sleeper, who you may not know because he's only appeared twice in the comics, but he's one of the few other good symbiotes. So it really appears like a war is about to happen, which we knew.
Yeah.
But we didn't think, I thought very much that it would be like Venom and Spider-Man fight everyone. But it looks like it's going to be split slightly more evenly, which means it may be like War of the Realms level.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want that, remember Fear Itself, where they basically went all out and gave all the Marvel heroes their own Asgardian armor. I kind of want, I want Spidey to hook up with a new symbiote. I know Venom's down there, but Venom's got a new pal now. Venom's got Eddie Brock, and they love each other.
Partner.
Exactly, and like Peter should totally get a new symbiote. See, you get a symbiote, you get a symbiote, you all get a symbiote. Let's just Oprah Winfrey this, because like everyone should get a symbiote. It'd be really great. Who would you want to get a symbiote?
Well, the thing is that Sleeper, his actual like human form is this guy he lobotomized, so he could just take total control. So it'd be interesting to see him. It'd be nice to see him have like an actually nice alien-human relationship that doesn't involve just like very bad times.
Yeah, I will move on to the next issue now, which is House of X, which you're probably bored of this by now. It's still the best thing ever. I read it. It's more traditional X-Men action this time around, and we kind of get a look at the X-Men going into space to take on the Orcus Protocol and the Mother Mold before it can activate Nimrod in the near future. And yeah, it's great. I absolutely love the way Hickman gets a voice for all the different team members in this. We see Nightcrawler bamfing around with this cool medieval sword again. Oh god, it brings me back to the old Excalibur. Makes you so happy. Wolverine gets some really, really good dialogue about that Jean is kind of defending the scientists on the ship, and like Wolverine's there like, well, how do we think humanity got from sticks to bombs, eh? And that's really interesting. And then Emma Frost has the biggest mic drop moment of all time, where she basically just strolls, like catwalks into Sabretooth's trial in like the most obscene, cool outfit ever, with the cuckoos, and basically it's just there like, he's ours now. What you gonna do about it, nerds? And that's literally the entire thing. Moment. I absolutely loved it. What did you think?
It's like a proper court scene. She just slams open the door and she's like, by the way, human court means nothing to me. I'll be going. See you guys later. It was interesting to see the cuckoos as well, because I always hold out hope that they'll have a more major role than they seem to in any comic. And seeing them sort of as her like backup squad, I think is really promising that they will feature slightly more, because like that team, terrifying.
Yeah, I was really cool about that. And the issue, spoilers ahead if you've not read it, it kind of ends on a massive note where the X-Men basically execute their plan flawlessly, but they don't account for the variable that maybe one of the humans on board is a little bit mad and has a bit of a death wish. So basically they attach the X-Jet onto the Orcus, kind of the facility, and then one of the fellas in there basically blows himself up, which leaves the fate of that particular timeline uncertain. I don't know if they're going to do a thing where maybe this is actually this is the 10th, and maybe we move into the 11th life, maybe, because obviously the last issue subverted our expectations by revealing that actually was the 9th life of Moira X, when we're now in the 10th. And oh my god, it's so good. My brain hurts, but I love it so much. I'm in a massive X-Men mood right now. Just literally hook it all to my veins. Just Barney Gumble right here, X-Men in the beer, just all in there. Well,
it's interesting because compared to some of the other issues, it's like less dramatic, but less dramatic literally equals like 3 explosions, 1 dramatic court confrontation, and 7 plot twists you weren't expecting, which says a lot for the series, I think.
Hickman! But yeah, we'll move on to the next issue now, which was kind of maybe the most gimmicky comic of the year so far.
I loved it for it, though.
Marvel Comics 1000, which is basically Marvel's attempt to, match DC's Action Comics 1000 and Detective Comics 1000. And to be fair, I was pretty excited for the issue. Al Ewing was meant to be doing a big overarching story through the thing. I got the Greg Smallwood variant cover because I love some supernatural heroes when they're around. It's really pretty. And I have had to basically rush through the issue, get to the Al Ewing stuff, mainly because all the other stuff, while great, isn't integral. It's an interesting comic, and it's all about this old mask and how it's basically moving forward through time, and it's going through all the different timelines. In a weird way, it kind of reminded me of Doomsday Clock when they go through the different possible pasts and the retcons cons and the
can see
futures,
that.
where they go through the original X-Men from like the 1940s and they go all the way through. There's a ferret who hates Nazis in it. It's fantastic. Yeah, what was your biggest takeaway from the issue?
Well, as you know, I'm a sucker for a timeline because I'm a history nerd. So to see this clear focus on like, well, how are we creating our past? Like, what are the themes that we think are important? Also, what are the characters that we think would be fun? Because as much as there is a lot of important world building stuff, there's also a lot of just Deadpooling about in the comic.
Some great, it reunites some really classic creative teams and also some new ones, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar does a Luke Cage and Jessica Jones story, which is really cool. Phil Lord and Chris Miller have a great little funny Spider-Man story. And then Brad Meltzer and Julian Tedesco. Tedesco is one of the most incredible artists currently working in the business. They have a really good issue where Spider-Man basically saves a pregnant woman and she names her child after Ben Parker, and that got me. But the one that made me most emotional was goddamn Chris Samnee at it again with his great Captain America pencils, where it's him and Bucky playing in the snow, and then like he's like, "Are you gonna be okay to make it home, Steve?" And he's there like he pauses for a second, goes, "Yeah," and it cuts down to him in the eyes, and you realise he's dreaming about his childhood with Bucky, and
Feels bad.
I can't cry more times.
It was a really beautiful blend of like a bunch of important moments that you could tell writers had wanted to write but couldn't fit it in, and then a lot of silly jokes that you could tell writing teams had sort of been like, oh, imagine if the Punisher and Wolverine talked about bath bombs.
Garth Ennis, you beautiful man. That issue, they literally have a little dialogue where Wolverine and Punisher have teamed up, and Wolverine's getting stressed out, so he starts meditating and thinking about bath bombs.
I've been there.
And with the biggest revelation, and maybe we should have led with this in the headline really, is that the Punisher and Wolverine are both bath fans. They love baths.
I really connected with them on a level I haven't before.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I want to say maybe my favorite issue might have been the Saladin Ahmed The Thing bit where he's giving his interviews, and that to me kind of just exemplified all the the tragedy of Ben Grimm, and how he's just such a lovable, ever-loving, blue-eyed thing, and I love him. And I just want him to be happy all the time. But yeah, we'll move on to the last one now, and that is Spider-Man Life Story releasing its final issue this week. And all I'm going to say now is that if you haven't been reading this, please go pick it up in trade when it finally releases. I think it comes out, all 6 issues kind of come out either next month or the month after. That's a request directly to you, Josh Brown, because he loves Spider-Man and he needs to get it. But yeah, basically it goes through Peter Parker's life as kind of like it's an actual linear progression. Kind of interesting that I've been talking about this after my essay on the status quo of Marvel came out. You should go watch that video if you haven't already. And it's all about Peter basically growing up through the years in a linear timeline. And we get to the 2010s, and it basically, I don't want to spoil it, but it ends on a note that made me blubber like a little child. It is absolutely wonderful. Chip Zdarsky, hats off to you and Mark Bagley, because it was absolutely phenomenal.
I think it's a real testament not only to the character but to like the people who've worked on it before, that you could use storylines that have already existed but like revamp them in such a way that like you read the comic and a lot of people who know about Spider-Man and his timeline know exactly what is about to happen and still cry like children.
Yeah.
Like grown-ass children.
I cried a lot. I've not cried that much since like the Jane Foster stuff and the Mighty Thor.
Mine was the Spider-Man game. God damn it, Spider-Man.
Yeah. Play that if you haven't already as well. But yeah, please let us know what you thought of this marvelous menagerie of Marvel goodness down in the comments below. The comments below. I can do alliteration, but invariably something else always suffers. Please do that, and then like, share, and subscribe, and head back on over to whatculture.com/comics. We'll have news, lists, and articles like this every day. You can follow What Culture Comics on Twitter at WC Comics. You can follow me on Twitter at Ewan Ruins Things, and you can follow Zoe on Twitter at
Zemaskel.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.